Chapter 11. Synesthetes rarely sleep. No sprawled, snoozing heap for them. They are a restless herd. These creatures, these dark creatures, who contain within them the most profound of all our fears, the hidden things, old guilts and failings that we will ourselves to forget. Their constant pawing and snorting is accompanied by an atmosphere of foul-smelling sweat, for they glisten with it. Their energy is boundless. They toss their heads and flare their nostrils, tasting the air, searching for the places where they will spew their loathsome holdings, waiting for deepest night, the time when infliction takes place. They are not bound by rules or limits, as the dream givers are. They prey on the most vulnerable. They have no mercy. And they were aware of the boy. They were making ready for the boy. Most Ancient called a meeting. The dream givers gathered early in the evening, before dark fully fell, before they went out on their nightly work. "A warning to you all," he announced. "I dislike bringing this up. It is not something we will discussing. But I'm feeling some early warning signs, small tremors in the earth. I want you to be alert." A murmur rippled through the heap. Littlest one listened carefully. Around her she heard this sound. The dream givers were saying the word under their breath. "Synesthetes, synesthetes." "They're convening," Most Ancient said. "I believe they have a victim identified. They've been on the prowl." "Prowl?" Trooper asked. Trooper was a large, muscular dream giver, forceful and decisive. I'd say rampage is the word for it. I had to deal with one quite recently. It inflicted a terrible nightmare on a young man in my assigned house. Did a lot of damage. I've been doing remedial dreams ever since. "I've had some trouble as well," another voice called. Littlest peered toward the back of the heap to see who was speaking. It was Dowager, so precise always, speaking now in a clipped tone. "I've been able to ward them off, but I've definitely felt some approaches, and I saw scorch marks on the wall of a bedroom." "Scorch marks?" Littlest whispered in a questioning voice to Thin Elderly, who was beside her. "What are scorch marks?" "I'll explain later," he whispered back. "Anyone else?" Most Ancient looked around. Some heads nodded. A few hands went up. "Well, we've always had these individual forays, of course. Trooper, good work. You do deal well with these. If any of you need help, feel free to call on Trooper for a little extra muscle. But what I want you all to be on the lookout for are signs of a pending group attack. I'm feeling a gathering starting, a horde. This only happens rarely. Over the years, occasionally, they have focused on one victim, someone particularly helpless. Then they mass and descend. Perhaps only the oldest of you here have ever experienced it. Anyone remember the last horde attack?" He looked around. "No one? Well, it's been a very long while. I don't mean to worry or alarm you, and I don't see it as imminent. But we must be on the lookout. Somewhere out there they are beginning to sniff, to sense a victim. Let's be vigilant. Let's be on guard." Subdued, the dream givers rose from the heap and began to set out for their night work. There were apprehensive murmurs among them. Littlest could hear the whispered sounds. That meant some of them were still saying the name under their breath. "Synesthete," she whispered to herself, testing the sound of it. But Thin Elderly, looking down at her, shook his head in warning. He put his finger to his lips. Chastened and a little nervous, Littlest reached up, took his hand, and held tightly to it as they set out.